Engage banners continue to elude us in Fae, and honestly I'm not sure why. Maybe we'll get some seasonal engage alts early, or perhaps Intelligent Systems wanted to wait and see who would be the new popular characters. Rip male Alir though. Now for March's new hero banner, we have a Sacred Stones Freya theme including Vanessa, Syrene, my main man Gilliam, and Rearmed Tana, who seems to have taken some archery lessons from her brother. Very flyer focused banner, and even Gilliam has something flyer emblem enthusiasts may want. We'll talk about stats and skills, plus discuss some build ideas. The 4-star focus unit for this banner is Vanessa. You can get her at 4 stars, and she will be demoted to the 3 to 4 star pool after the banner has ended. Vanessa is the early game flyer of Sacred Stones and will be a Lance Pegasus Knight in Fae. For stats, she has 39 HP, 40 attack, 43 speed, 27 defense, and 34 res. Speed super boon is nice, but for the most part, pretty typical Pegasus Knight stat spread. Good base speed, actually one of the higher base attack stats, and a defensive spread focused more on resistance than defense. We have a couple free-to-play Lance Flyers in the last year or so, and Vanessa is another decent addition. She is most similar to Karen stat-wise. For old skills, Vanessa has Luna as her special. She then brings Attack and Res Catch 3 to the demote pool, which is good if you want to inherit the tier 4 later on. Vanessa also brings Speed and Res 03 as a demote. It can be gotten from the Thurbo for Heroic Grails, but this is another option. Still no Speed and Res 04 in the game, but it has to come eventually. For her weapon, Vanessa has the Upfront Lance Plus. This is a 14 weight inheritable lance, and if the foe has 175% HP, grants plus 5 attack and speed and neutralize attack and speed debuffs during combat. Upfront Lance is the same as Spring Minerva's Spring Heat Lance Plus. She is a 4-star focused unit, but is seasonal, so this is probably an easier way to get this weapon. Upfront Lance is not bad if you need attack and speed, and it ignores attack and speed debuffs if you need to win some speed battles. Personally, I don't really like its HP condition, but it works on full health foes, which is generally most important. If you want another offensive lance, the Ray Lance Plus is available on Fila, and it can support the team, but it does not ignore debuffs. However, it is just always active. Now, in terms of builds, you can keep Vanessa's base kit for a budget setup. You can add a Catch Sacred Seal or go for solo skills. Desperation is a pretty basic beast go for multiple fights since Upfront Lance basically is a full offensive weapon. Ideally, if you can get them, a Flow beast skill would let Vanessa use her good speed to double tanks, and Flow Guard would let her stop fast charging specials on the counter. Obviously, you can go with a near trace for console and pick a Rain or Hote's go for consistent debuffs. Speed and Res Oath would be great at tier 4, but otherwise I would go with the Rains for now. In regards to other inheritable lances, Vanessa does have the best attack and speed spread out of the free-to-play lance flyers. This makes her a decent candidate for the Ninja Brave lances, and we have access to both if you still have Ninja Navarre's Ephemera. Ninja Yari is better for speed and quadding, but for higher damage you want the Ninja Naginata. There are some attack and defense lances Vanessa could use to bump up her lowered base defense. Unbound Lance is a solo type weapon, and coming with the new Grand Hero Battle unit is the Protection Pike Plus. That comes with Guard, which is nice to have. Vanessa could also run Spring Michaelis's Hare's Lance. 40% damage reduction for one hit is pretty neat, and you could run that with Flow Guard for a decent attacking setup. Maybe it could work with a more defensive setup as well. I'm not really focusing on it, but you could build around Vanessa's res for magical tanking. I wouldn't say she's a Pegasus flight material, but it could work if you go all in on flat resistance. To end things off, the most popular pick for Vanessa will continue to be the Arcane Cheong Lance. I mean, it is by far one of the most interesting weapons for Flyers and Cavaliers because it patches up one of their biggest issues for these classes in that they have a lack of cooldown reduction skills. Accelerate specials and breath type cooldown on both phases opens up so many more interesting build options. You can retaliate with Iceberg after one action or get Guildforce going much more consistently. Vanessa could run Surge Spell to heal up after taking some damage with those specials too. Alfred will also hand these units Flow Near Trace, which is just fantastic. Overall, Vanessa is basically just another Lance Flyer demote added to the game. Nothing super special about her stats outside of having a slightly higher attack focus, lots of build freedom, and works just fine with the current Arcane Lance. Our next unit is Vanessa's older sister, Syrene. She's a commander of Freya's Pegasus Knights, and I believe she's the last recruitable unit in the base game of Sacred Stones, so it's a bit tough to fit her into a playthrough. However, you need Syrene to activate the Triangle Attack in Sacred Stones along with Vanessa and Tana. In Fae, Syrene will be repping the Falcon Knight class by being a sword flyer. She has 37 HP, 39 attack, 45 speed, 21 defense, and 41 resistance. Syrene has speed and res super boons, and you will want both of those if you stick with her main skill. Similar to Chloe, Syrene will be trying to use Pegasus Flight 4. It's still a rather niche skill, but I'm glad at least a second unit already exists and both are in the permanent pool. Pegasus Flight requires high flat speed and res stats because it does stat checks at start of combat. Syrene can get up to -12 attack and defense debuffs to support her lower base defense, and she can prevent a follow-up attack if the skill is fully active. Probably not enough to save her from an arrow, but maybe her weapon could change that. Syrene will have the Rearmed Blade. It has 16 might and accelerated specials. If the foe initiates or has more than 75% HP, grant plus $5 stats, inflict attack speed and defense debuffs on the foe equal to 15% of Syrene's speed stat at start of combat. Also, it grants offense in a follow-up, and finally, reduce the first attack by 40%. So basically, Rearmed Blade is always active on the enemy phase, but can work on the player phase into healthy foes. If Syrene has her base 45 speed, she will inflict -6 attack speed and defense on the foe, and if you translate into buffs, her overall stat boost is kinda just +11 to all stats. Not too shabby, especially if Pegasus Flight 4 is active. If Syrene at least wins the speed plus res check, she's gonna have offense in a follow-up and follow-up denial. This is better than Omnibreaker unless you run into faster enemies. Now, for the most part, Rearmed Blade is a decent weapon. Syrene has a lot of good general perks like accelerated specials and a good chunk of stats. She has 40% DI for one hit, and offense in a follow-up lets her double slower tanks. If you want to gain extra debuffs, Syrene needs to hit that 47 flat speed for -7, and then 54 speed for -8. Not impossible with the speed super boon, merges, and field buffs. For our inheritable skill, Syrene has Speed and Res Catch 4. This is our last catch stat variant. It probably is late because generally not a lot of units are going to want this combination, but obviously certain units and builds can make it work. Sadly, Pegasus Flight 4 is not one of them. That skill requires flat speed and res for its checks, and catch skills are in combat only. Syrene's weapon also requires flat speed for scaling, so generally speaking, this is not a vital A skill to keep. In terms of builds, Syrene would ideally like as much flat speed and res as she can get if you stick with Pegasus Flight 4. Flat speed also improves Rearmed Blade's debuffs. Like with Chloe, I would say Speed and Res Oath 4 would be the C skill to go with. You can get easy +6 Speed and Res field buffs to utilize, extra stats in combat, and warping. The problem is that this skill does not exist yet, and who knows when it will. You can use the tier 3 from Vanessa, but it's more restricting. A Menace skill can also do a similar job though. As for A skills and Sacred Seals, technically you could go with Fury. You will kill Syrene's HP after a single fight, but for that first encounter you get the most flat stats to win the Pegasus Flight stat check. You could technically go double Fury or push for a Gale Force setup, but Pegasus Flight is generally a more defensive skill. For example, Chloe has distance stance to target mages. If you want to copy that route, honestly I would not go with Fury. Try to just use Speed and Res field buffs and debuffs to alter those flat stats. Now, going back to Gale Force, Syrene can make it work with her excited specials, offense in the follow-up, and 40% DR. Her base defense is not high, but you can use that to your advantage for Wings of Mercy on top of the recoil damage from Push 4 or Fury skills. She doesn't have the highest base attack, but if you keep Pegasus Flight, that can be a big enough attack swing for Heavy Blade. You could also just run a Near Trace and Rain C skill that debuff attack. Generally speaking, with offense and a follow-up on Rearmed Blade, Syrene doesn't need a flow B skill. For pure offensive combat, Guard would also be nice to have to not instantly get blown away. Now, an interesting option that is open is Wind or Water Sweep. Syrene could just avoid physical damage completely on initiations, although obviously she's even weaker if she does get into a scrap. Overall, Syrene is interesting as a lot of her stats are hidden behind weird skills like Pegasus Flight. If it's fully active, she has a good amount of attack and defense debuffs with follow-up denial. Her weapon gives a sizable speed boost, and you have 40% damage reduction. That 21 base defense might be misleading, although I would not call her a physical wall by any means. These types of units are definitely not really meta, but they can be annoying. If Syrene can survive a hit or two, she has good speed and can get a decent amount of extra damage in. Next up is one of my favorite characters from Sacred Stones, Gilliam. He is basically the only armored knight you get in the game, unless you turn Amelia into one. The GBA Fire Emblem Journals are still one of my favorite classes because they look badass, and they have their ridiculous chain attached weapons. The OG Amelia in Fae having the chain axe is still one of the greatest artworks in the game for me. Then back to Gilliam. He's a lance armored unit with 47 HP, 44 attack, 21 speed, 48 defense, and 35 res. He will have an attack super boom, but Gilliam will be setting a new highest base defense for the game at 48. Previously, it was held by Spring Michaelis for about 2 seconds. Technically though, Gilliam will tie Valentine's Gustav for actual highest defense stat when we include Dragon Flowers. Pretty typical slot armor unit though, Gilliam has great attack and defense, and he can take a magical hit as well. For old skills, very standard setup, Bonfire, straight stance 3, attack and defense near save, pure physical melee tanking, and Bonfire is gonna hit like a truck. Gilliam's weapon is the Fralian Lance, which has 16 might and exercise specials. At start of turn, Gilliam will give all flying allies within 2 spaces in an Oath's shield status, aka neutralize fly effective bonuses. If the foe initiates combat or has more than 75% HP, then Gilliam gets plus 6 attack, inflict minus 6 attack on the foe, then inflict more attack and defense debuffs equal to 20% of his defense stat at start of combat, and finally Gilliam gets 40% DR for 1 hit. As the name suggests, Fralian Lance is quite similar to Syrene's Fralian Blade, exercise specials, extra stats with debuff scaling off of flat stats, and then 40% DR. For Gilliam, he scales with flat defense, and with 48 defense, he's gonna hit foes with -9 attack and defense in combat. With his other stat boost, that's already -15 attack, and with 40% DR, Gilliam can definitely take a magical blast. For the most part, pretty standard armor stuff for combat. What will make Gilliam unique is his ability to give flying allies an Oath's shield status. I believe the only other unit with this status was Harmonic Mirror with her Harmonize skill, but she only gave it to herself. Gilliam will be spreading the love, and it's fitting for a banner with 3 flyers. Sadly, all 3 of those flyers I wouldn't say are the best at taking arrows in the first place. Syrene could benefit from it with her Pegasus flight debuffs, but her still very low base defense doesn't really inspire physical tanking anyway. The other thing is that if Gilliam is near saving, then would he want Oath's shield to be on a flyer who can fight ranged foes? That seems to be his ideal ally. Off the top of my head, a fitting unit for that role could be Myrrh and her ults. Myrrh typically is a tankier flying dragon, and dragons have adaptive damage versus ranged foes. She can run the DC Sacred Seal, so that seems like a decently fun pairing. In general, high defense flyers would like Oath's shield to tank those arrows. Not taking extra base damage severely cuts down on Deadeye's damage as well, although you can't really do much about the DR piercing. Now, an issue with this idea is that flyers still don't have the best defensive skills, and Deadeye will negate any DR skills they try. If anything, Oath's shield could be interesting for last year's Ninja Wyverns. She may not have won, but Ninja Camilla is coming back soon and is very annoying. Let's say you bring Hardy Bearing to avoid her Vantage Cheese. You got an archer, maybe someone with Deadeye hoping to score an easy kill. Well, suddenly, Camilla has Oath's shield, maybe some defense buffs, and you fail to kill her immediately. She then fires back with all her brave damage. Similar thinking for Duo Ninja Leg Yarn, maybe Ninja Heath. Now obviously, if you're on the attack, Oath's shield lets flyers attack into archers better. We are getting an Arcane Bow on this banner, which might incentivize more defensive archer builds. Gilliam could be an interesting addition for a flyer heavy team. Moving on, Gilliam will bring Vengeful Fighter 4. We just got a Heroic Grail unit with Vengeful Fighter 3 right on time. If unit's HP is greater than 25% and foe initiates combat, inflict -4 attack on foe, unit gets a guaranteed follow-up attack, prevent the foe from making a follow-up attack, and grant special cooldown charge +1 to unit per attack. Back with a vengeance, for sure, this is a pretty solid upgrade. New to the tier 4 is attack debuffs, fall denial, and full breath cooldown reduction. Before, you could only got the cooldown on your own attacks, but this is way better. If you don't care about guard or have guard from elsewhere, Vengeful Fighter 4 can replace Special Fighter. The only thing is that it's enemy phase only, but for the meta save skills that's been going on, really not an issue. Very solid upgrade, and armors with slaying like Gilliam can instantly fire back bonfires, maybe 2 if the foe survives the first one. There's a lot of theorizing to be done for Gilliam's Oath's shield support, but gameplay wise, he's pretty typical modern armor unit. Absurd amount of defense, absurd amount of attack debuffs, near save, slaying bonfire counterattacks with quicker posts. Tank and spank, very standard stuff. Now to put in some numbers, if Gilliam can hit 50 flat defense, Fralian Lance inflicts -16 attack debuffs by itself. With Vengeful Fighter 4, that's -20 attack, and then the guy gets +10 defense from Sturdy Stance and near save. Good luck with that. Even on the magical side, Gilliam's pretty sturdy and he has 40% DR on that first hit. If you don't one-shot him, he could counter with a bonfire that's gonna sting. Stack more attack and defense to res in the Sacred Soul slot, and that's pretty much it. If you want to change things up, Gilliam can swap to other fighter skills, maybe new tier 4 ones as they release. His weapon doesn't have the most skill effects outside pure debuffs, so he wants follow-up attacks, cooldown reduction, and guard. His base can provide all three, but you could do something like Special Fighter 4 with Close Defense 4 to deny enemy field boss, and then you run Quicker Pulse as a seal. If Bold Fighter 4 were to come out and then it's crazy good, then slap on Armor March or Assault Troop and Frillian Lance could do just fine with it. Since he has Excite Specials, Hardy Fighter works with Pavis or Aegis, but again, Gilliam ideally wants a follow-up cooldown and guard. You're gonna lose two of those things without Vengeful Fighter 4, and if you run Distant Counter for Far Save, then you lose guard as well. Maybe not the best Far Savior ever, but obviously, Gilliam can make it work with all those debuffs. If you Far Save with Vengeful Fighter, you basically have to one-shot on the counter, and mages might be able to burst them down if you don't build more res. To wrap things up though, Gilliam will be the usual very tanky army unit who can punish with instant bonfires. If you have a bulky flying team, then Frillian Lance's out shield support could be a fun pairing. Probably not game changing, but certainly some value for specific teams. Our last unit for today is Rearmed Tana, who is a flying colorless archer. That means the Arcane Bow is in. If it was an engage banner, I thought Alcris had a good shot at getting the Arcane Bow. Well, turns out it's another younger royal sibling. Tana is coming in hot with 40 HP, 45 attack, 47 speed, 22 defense, 23 res. She has attack, speed, and res super boons. Good lord. Remember how a couple weeks ago we got the best offensive spread in the game? Well, now there's another unit joining Harmonic Carla. Tana's stats are straight crazy. She has 3 more speed than the fastest flying archer and still has the highest attack stat as well. Her defense will suffer, but Tana actually might be able to take a hit thanks to her bow. For ult skills, if you plan to pick up the Arcane Bow, you can also grab Deadeye as well. That alone would be great value, but it's also possible to get attack and speed unity, and if you're a fellow flying archer, you can actually get Tana's last new tier 4 inheritable skill as well. Little background on the Arcane Náströnd named. In-game, it's mentioned Innis gave Tana this bow, and it's related to Nidhogg, which is Freilia's sacred twin bow. In Norse mythology, Náströnd is where Nidhogg dwells, and Nidhogg is a dragon. I assume that's why this bow has little dragon claws, and Tana's special art has a fiery dragon coming from the arrow. Now, the Arcane Náströnd bow will have 14 might and Excite Specials. If unit initiates or is within 2 spaces of an ally, grant +5 to all stats, grant a follow-up attack, reduce the first hit by 30%, and grant bonus attack equal to 12 minus the foe's max special value times 2. This has a minimum of +4 attack. For the most part, pretty good journalist weapon. Excite Specials is a big plus, especially since Tana can hand over Deadeye with this bow. The attack boost scales higher if the foe uses a lower cooldown special. If it's a 1 cooldown, the user gets +10 extra attack, so 15 attack total. If it's a 4 cooldown or higher special, they just get +4 attack or +9 attack total. Either way, more attack is great because Deadeye scales off base damage. The higher your attack, the more base damage you deal, and the more damage Deadeye deals. Arcane Náströnd also provides a follow-up for slow or fast archers and 30% DR with +5 defense and res, and the bonus stat refine can work nicely for a defensive build. Very interesting Arcane Bow, and you can definitely do a variety of things with it depending on your unit's class type and skills. For example, infantry obviously can use it with Special Spiral 4, and that could let them use Luna instead of Deadeye. Armors could use it with Special Fighter 4, or maybe the new Vengeful Fighter 4 to counter with Deadeye, Bonfire, or Iceberg. Now, to separate herself from other users, Tana gets a unique B skill, Soaring Wings. Enables Kanto 1. Tana can move to a space within 2 spaces of an ally within 2 spaces. At start of combat, if Tana has more than 25% HP, inflict speed and defense debuffs on the foe. This value is 4 plus the number of spaces moved by whoever initiated combat, maxing out at -8 speed and defense if you move 4 spaces. Soaring Wings combines Kanto and 2-space warping from Tana's previous ult. The speed and defense debuffs only improve for firepower, and if you warp 2 spaces ahead of an ally, Tana will max out the debuffs. Very large attack range on a ranged unit, and Kanto 1 can let Tana retreat a bit, and this will synergize with her last skill. Back in year 1, Tana brought Guidance to the game, so it's fitting that she will introduce Guidance 4. Infantry and armor allies now get 2-space warping around the user. If in combat, they also get +3 attack and speed, and if they're faster than the foe, those allies will get offense and a follow-up, aka they neutralize effects that prevent their follow-up attacks. It may not be a pure combat skill, but Guidance 4 adds a ton of cool support power for your team. 2-space warping just like Summer Tana or Ash, and allies get a little stat boost to help as well. Additionally, they can get offensive follow-up, which is insanely good, and this is another way to let infantry units use their high speed. It's not full no follow-up, but for attacking with the 2-space warp, I think most units will be alright. Big thing to note, guidance is for infantry and armor units only. Flyers and cavaliers do not benefit at all. Bit of a shame, but if you can set up a ground team around Tana, then you can improve attack range and movement options. For armor units, there are not that many who are running player or even mixed phase setups. Mostly everyone's going savior and pure enemy phase builds. Still, maybe something like Bold Fighter 4 entices more aggressive builds, and Special Fighter 4 with fast armors like Winter BK can use guidance just fine. At least for the Raging Storm Edelguards, they can space apart from Tana so they can still meet their solo condition. Regarding skill inheritance, Tana can pass on all 4 of her skills at once. Grab Silver Bow from Rebecca or Varian to inherit Arcane Náströnd. Deadeye only needs Astra. Attack and Speed Unity needs Attack and Speed Bond 3 from Kent. Guidance 4 needs Guidance 3 from Bridal Lorm. For non-flyers, obviously no Guidance 4 sadly. In terms of playstyles, Rearmed Tana has a lot of firepower, but her main issue is getting to use it safely. Ideally, she doubles with her immense speed and deals a ton of damage with big attack buffs from Arcane Náströnd, plus big defense debuffs from Soaring Wings. Tana can hopefully take one hit thanks to damage reduction, and her second hit will proc Deadeye. This would be great, but obviously Guard messes up Deadeye, and the free follow-up from Arcane Náströnd is not a guaranteed double. Tana herself would prefer offensive no follow-up, but she cannot get it unless you have specific no follow-up supports like Harmonic Lind. If you're facing competent tanks like the Free for Mortis that every player is going to get, then Tana may be in danger. Attack and Speed Unity is nice for debuffs, but Remote Sparrow may be better to try and stack more DR with the bow. If you do not bring Guard, you're also in danger of just a big special counter, and damage reduction may not be enough. Now while Tana has some issues, she also provides immense pressure via mobility. Guidance 4 is nasty and can extend team movement options, which lets you set up attacks. An ally can jump 2 spaces ahead of Tana, and then Soaring Wings lets Tana jump 2 spaces ahead of them. That is 4 movement on a very dangerous flying archer, so if the enemy backline isn't protected, Tana can easily snipe someone out. Additionally, let's say Tana does survive a fight, she has Kanto 1, which can then set up another guidance warp. In fact, she doesn't have to fight to set up guidance plays, and if allies move first, then Tana can leapfrog over them, and then you add in dancers, and all kinds of chaos ensues. If you want to further set up attackers, then you could run Drive Speed 2 for more speed buffs. I mean, speed battles are getting insane, so +6 speed for your offensive no follow-up allies might make a difference. To end things off, let's talk about some fun alternate weapons. To be honest, Soaring Wings with those insane offensive stats may just make Rearmed Tana an even better Whitecap Bow user. I've been saying it, but Brave weapons are just too unique to be completely power crept by arcane weapons, which generally fit a generalist role. More speed and defense debuffs only fit the Whitecap Bow's double tap power, and Tana gets 2 space warping with Kanto 1. Sounds pretty dang good to me. Now, another potential weapon which solves Tana's defensive woes is the Fire Sweep Bow. You lose a lot of power, but not getting hit might be worth it, especially if Tana retreats with Kanto to then set up guidance warping. If the Fire Sweep Bow was easier to get, I would give it a spin. Now, the Arcane Náströnd is definitely good, but Rearmed Tana may find success with other weaponry. Soaring Wings isn't super crazy, but it just has enough uniqueness to make Tana stand out a good bit. Having the best offensive stats in the game also helps. That'll be it for this year's Sacred Stones banner. I've been saving my orbs up, so I'm hoping for some decent luck on summons. If you are saving, maybe for Engage or the A Hero Rises banner later this month, then we have a Grand Hero battle for Vigard. He is another Lance Army unit, and actually is quite fitting considering the Demon King is coming for free very soon. We'll talk about Leon's dad tomorrow. Thank you for watching, good luck on your summons, and I will see you in the next video.